woman in your life that everyone relies upon, you spend a lot of your energy on others and have a tough time setting boundaries and creating a safe space for yourself, then this is the episode for you. I was lucky enough to chat with Dr. Harmony Robinson-Stagg, Doctor of Chinese Medicine, Ayurveda and women's health practitioner, and former emergency nurse who spent years being the strong one, saying yes when she wanted to say no, pushing through exhaustion, and losing touch with herself in the process. After the birth of her twin boys, she hit breaking point. The health system she'd devoted her career to couldn't support her when she needed it most. That experience led her to Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine, which not only helped heal her physically, but also reawakened her self-worth, intuition, and purpose. Today, Harmony helps women stop abandoning themselves in the name of being capable and start reconnecting with their real selves, body, mind, and soul. Her new book, Ayurveda and the Alchemy of Her, which I recently read and absolutely adored, weaves her story with practical tools for overcoming burnout, perfectionism, and people-pleasing through the lens of ancient wisdom and modern psychology. It's a sacred guide for the woman who is done outsourcing her power and ready to reclaim her health, her truth, and the rhythm of her body. Thanks for tuning in today to the Can I Get a Refill podcast. I'm your host, Steph Bruno-Newton. Be sure to jump on my website, www.canigetarefillpodcast.com.au, linked in the show notes, to download your free 33-page ebook on 7 steps to protect your energy and fill up your cup. You cannot pour from an empty cup, so I've created a guide to help you take care of yourself in order to up-level your life. Download it today and make yourself a priority in 2026. Okay, let's jump in. Hello, my cup fillers, and welcome back to the Can I Get a Refill podcast. As just promised, we're in for a real treat today as we're joined by Dr. Harmony Robinson-Stagg. Harmony, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so very excited. I'm always so excited to meet my guests and have like company in my home. But when I've read a book that they've written, I always feel that extra pull because I'm like, oh, I know them. I know their words. I know their thoughts. I know the journey that your mum's been on. So I feel like I really know you. But this book, I would have shown in the intro, but for everyone looking on YouTube, it's just fantastic. Like, I have taken so many helpful hints from this, and I've taken so many photos of pages and texted them to friends who are going through certain things. So I'm like, this is really good. But I also feel like it's not a read once book. I feel like I'm going to have to go back in and top up. But it's so fantastic because I've been on for like 15 years, I call it a quest to get back to myself. And it's not, it's more a coming back to who I am. And that's what I like about your journey and your book. It's really helping women, achieve their higher self. So do you want to tell us a little bit about this book and how it came about writing this book?
Yeah. Thank you so much for your kind words. I do really, really appreciate that, because I think when you put something out in the world that does share a lot of your personal story, it's scary.
Scary. It's vulnerability to the max, isn't it?
It is. And I'm quite I am very open with all of my friends, but I'm actually like quite a private person. So this was a really big step for me. But I also knew that my story could help so many other women. And it's not just my story. As you know, I've weaved in many, many women's stories from my sort of practitioner side as well. But I had the vision to write this book for so long because I was seeing the same sort of patterns in women come into my clinic. And I knew from my own personal journey how, we get told that health is just sort of nutrition, eating right, moving your body, and you'll feel better. But when women were coming into my clinic with hormonal imbalances or gut health issues, and we talk about nutrition, of course, we talk about movement, we do diet and supplements and all those wonderful things. But at the core of it was this sort of missing piece and this identity in this transition of who they're becoming. And that's because we go through these rapid changes in our lives. And I don't want to say no one sort of takes notice of us when we sort of hit 40 onwards, but no one really takes notice of how big that transition is through the phases of sort of like from your 30s through to your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. And I think that is the time we start questioning ourselves and our purpose and our health and all of these wonderful things that make up who we truly are. It's just not our body, our diet, and what we eat. And so the women were coming to me and yeah, what's happening with my hormones, what's on my labs, like, you know, all of these things. But deeper down, there was this purpose piece missing or this identity piece missing. And so I really wanted to write this book because I'd come up with this methodology that I use with my clients and myself called the Higher Self Method. And it looks at these three pillars. And the first one is health alchemy. And we need to understand that our physical health is very important, but so is our emotional and mental and spiritual and dharmic health. And then the second pillar is the empowered mind paradigm. And that really talks about how to shift the mindset so that it can be conducive to healing or succeeding. And we can't heal from a disempowered state. We can't make shifts at all in our life, whether that be within our career, whether that be within our health or our desires, if we're coming from a disempowered state. So we need to use the principles of Ayurvedic psychology, or we don't need to, but they're the principles I use, Ayurvedic psychology, to be able to shift into that empowered mind paradigm to really step into your higher self. And then the last piece and the last pillar that a lot of health practitioners just don't talk about is dharmic impact. Like, why are we here? Why are we on this earth, you know? And it comes down to this dharma, this purpose, this bit that's missing. And if fulfillment's missing in our life, no matter how ripped our abs are, we really don't feel whole and healthy.
Purpose is everything. You'll notice I rewrote the questions and resent them to you after I finished the book because I have to say it like dharma. Is that how you say it? Dharma. I don't
Yeah, oh
want to
my
say
gosh,
dharma.
you said it so beautiful.
Deepak Chopra, I've heard him say it in
Oh,
my ears so many times, but it is such a huge thing that I think a lot of practices or modalities overlook. So that's the question I'm most excited to get into with you. But I'll dial it back a little bit. And can you just talk us through your journey and your eventual burnout, which is such a common thread with all of my guests, that led you to Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine? And I'll just say how much I love all of this in traditional Chinese medicine and how much on my personal journey I've gained long-term help from ancient practices, more so than here's a Band-Aid, here's a pill, here's a one therapy session. Like I just find that all of it, acupuncture, everything, I find that they've got so much wisdom, don't they, these
oh yeah.
ancient philosophies.
And they're tried and tested. Like Ayurveda is over 5,000 years old. And so acupuncture is about 3,000 years old. It's like,
Wow.
they're still here in 2026. So they're tried and tested and they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, my story, like you said, it is similar for a lot of women, perhaps, in the fact that I hit rock bottom with burnout. And that's when I really had to wake up to myself. So going back, I'm actually also a clinical registered nurse, and I was working in an emergency department, very busy emergency department. I enjoyed helping people, but I knew that it wasn't my life purpose and life path. And it was very high pressure, and I didn't mind that. Like, there was some excitement in that, but there's also a lot of trauma that you have to bottle up and just get to the next patient, right? And so there was a lot of things sort of bubbling, I guess, in the surface of my system, being an empath. And meanwhile, I always sort of said to myself, whilst I love supporting and helping people in health, I actually want to be on the healthy side of health, not the sick side. I feel like as nurses, we should be called sick care workers, not healthcare workers. And so there was always there's something different that I need to be doing, but I knew it was in health. And I'd done yoga teacher training. I was also a personal trainer, Pilates teacher. I dived into actually Ayurvedic psychology and some Ayurvedic studies very early on in my training, like years and years ago. And I was also creating my own activewear brand. So I had a business on the side. And I was running like that business, trying to do some like health coaching on the side and yoga and all that, whilst keeping my nursing job. And I fell pregnant, and I fell pregnant with twins. And it was it was a beautiful blessing, because I really wanted, I wanted children. Didn't expect to have twins. But at that stage, I was also looking at ways that I could go full time into my passion, which was in the health and wellness coaching sort of space and stuff like that. But then when I fell pregnant in a government job, I was like, okay, no, you got to stick it out because you need the maternity leave.
Yes,
Or you need
yes.
all the benefits.
Sometimes you have to make those hard choices. Yeah.
Exactly. So I stayed there longer than I should have.
Mm.
But in a way, I'm so grateful because I have learnt that system. Like I was in the hospital for 10 plus years and, I still hold my nursing registration. I do some random shifts, but it's more as a lifestyle consultant at one of the retreats. So a bit different. But anyway, I did learn how our allopathic medical system worked. And I could see the benefits in emergencies and in, people that needed a quick relief for pain or something like that. But I definitely saw its flaws. And I'd given over a decade of my life to this system. And when I really needed it myself, so after the birth of my twins, I kept trying. I was in that hustle culture. I grew up in the 90s, 2000s. So it's like go hard or go home type culture. And I was hustling hard and I was doing my business. I was trying to raise my twins. My husband's also a shift worker, so he was never around. And I just sort of wore this badge of honor as you're the strong one, you can do it all, because that's something that I'd been told as a child to wear. And eventually I felt so anxious. Anxiety just crept up on me. Depression. My hormones were all over the place. My gut health was a mess. And the decade more that I had given to this system, what the allopathic medical system wasn't able to support me. Yeah, sure, I got all the tests done, which a lot of them came back as normal. My hormones were a little out of whack, but there was nothing that they could really support me with. And so one day I sort of just was on the ground and I was just like crying. Kids are screaming in their little things. I was like, what do I need to do? Like, what do I need to do? And something just said, like, go to your Ayurvedic text, reopen that chapter of your life. And I did that. And I slowly started implementing the Ayurvedic lifestyle. And then I decided to study more advanced Ayurvedic medicine. And it completely, and I know this sounds so tacky and so cliched, but it did change the trajectory of my life. And I don't know how, like, a more exciting or better way to say that.
No, but it always comes from that point. I sometimes think the universe pushes you into a point where you can't take anymore to make you break, to make you say, enough, I need to look at how to fix this. Yeah, there's very much something in the medical industry. Everything's got its place and emergencies needed. But it's very reactive, the medical industry. And I've worked in certain companies, and when they're not doing well, it's when the staff are saying, we're very reactive. We're not like, we don't have things in place to predict things. So I feel like the more ancient the philosophy, the more it's getting to the root as a preventative.
Absolutely.
To stop disease happening. Whereas a lot of the medical thing is, let's make you more comfortable when you have the disease.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Ayurveda helps treat as well. But going back to your point, like, let's be real, there are so many people that are going to choose, quote unquote, the easy option. They don't want to do the work, the prevention. Yep. And that's sad, but they also haven't been educated on how
Correct.
and why. So I think it's really important that you're doing, episodes like this just to bring that knowledge and that self-empowerment to people for their own health and well-being.
Yeah. How can ancient practices like Ayurveda help modern women rebuild confidence, calm, and self-compassion? And why is healing more about presence rather than perfection?
Yeah, I love this question. So Ayurveda, at its core, is about cultivating a deeper understanding of yourself. And so it teaches us that we're not all the same, and that's actually a superpower. So one woman, depending on their constitution, they might feel their best waking up early, sticking to a nice morning routine, and then going for a beautiful workout and, then getting into the day. Whereas another might thrive more on slower mornings, having their creative flow in the morning, like doing some art, and they may just naturally need a little bit more rest. And so Ayurveda, it really honors those differences instead of putting us all into this sort of one size fits all model of health. Wake up at this time, do this, do that. That's like the epitome of the 5 a.m. club or whatever.
Yeah.
And so at the heart of this understanding is the three doshas, which we call our Ayurvedic constitution. And your Ayurvedic constitution is like your Ayurvedic fingerprint. It is so unique to you. So it's a unique combination of these three doshas that we call. And so the doshas are named Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and they're like your mind-body blueprint, so to speak. So Vata, who are more Vata predominant types, they're quite energetic. They talk, they're very social, they talk a lot. They talk with their hands like I am now. Like they're fast.
Is that what you are?
I'm Vata Pitta. Yeah.
Okay. Because my next question was, can you have a combination of both? Because I've come up as Pitta, but I feel like I've got bits of all three, in all honesty, but I'll let you carry on.
We have to have all three because they're made up of, without going to a big science lecture, they're made up of the 5 elements which we are all made up. So you have to have all three. But we have, even if I'm Vata Pitta and you were to be Vata Pitta, we would have varying degrees and they would present differently in our mind and body.
Got you.
And so,
something's more dominant for one of them.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we have what we call our Prakriti, which is the dosha that we're born with. This is our natural constitution. And then through lifestyle changes, hormonal changes, the environment that you live in, you work in, the food that you eat, it can shift that doshic imbalance and it becomes a Vikriti, which could be an imbalanced state. So for a Vata person, because they're made up of these sort of ether and air elements and they're fast moving and they're creative and they're social, when they're out of balance, they might feel really anxious and really scattered because they got all this energy that's not maintained and controlled. And then a Pitta type, they're naturally very driven. They're governed more by that fire element. So they can be fiery. They're really great leaders. They're good at structure. But when they're out of balance, they can push too hard and they can become really burnt out and then very irritable under stress.
That's me.
And yeah. And then the Kapha types, they're more naturally grounded and nurturing and calm.
Yeah, not me.
No,
no, I definitely lean towards the other two a lot more throughout the book. Yeah.
But then if they're not balanced, they can, like, they've got great endurance, but if they're not balanced, they can become very sluggish or stuck if they're not stimulated. So they are the people that they need a little bit of fire and motivation, and they need to move their body and they've got to be motivated to do so. Whereas a Vata Pitta is just like, I need to move, I want to move. And maybe too much movement can create,
But I love that about these sort of practices is that not one size fits all. Because I'm always like, what everyone else is always preaching, I'm like, oh, that doesn't work for me. So I feel left out. So I love that there's all different, sort of personalities in there. But can it change over time? Because you were saying, because I was the wake up at 5 a.m., or be in the gym at 5 a.m., go. And now I'm the slow morning creativity person. Can you evolve over time?
Yeah, absolutely. And that becomes our Vikriti, so the state that we're in now. And perhaps even by the greater self-awareness and the realization that maybe you do need to slow down a little bit in the mornings, perhaps maybe you're even more in balance now than what you were. And I'm like, I don't know your history. I'm not saying that you weren't or not, but sometimes as we get older, as we mature, that's
the word I've been using. Substitute word. Yeah.
We start to listen to ourselves. We start to ask those quality questions of, why were we pushing so hard? And what really feels good to our nature. And so if you said that you were more of a Pitta constitution, but now you're doing a little bit slower in the mornings and being a bit more creative, you're allowing that side to come through, which is actually very nurturing for Pitta, because Pittas want to get up, they want to go, they want to hustle a lot of the time. And whilst they have somewhat capacity to do that, that can also be to their detriment, because if they do it too much and too hard, that's when they burn out. And so allowing this more creative feminine side come through is probably keeping you in a beautiful balance with your health and wellness, to be honest.
So the whole point of these practices is really looking at yourself not just like white knuckling it and pushing through. You're looking at yourself and constantly assessing and reassessing what needs to be balanced. And you can do that through practices and diet and lifestyle, right?
Absolutely. And the other thing is, like, to your question, when you understand yourself better, you're so much more confident in who you are and then how you can support yourself. So, for instance, like if you are feeling, I'll go back to a principle. So a principle in Ayurveda is like attracts like, and opposites either balance or decrease each other. So if you're feeling really rushed and anxious and scattered, and then you dump a bottle of caffeine into your system and then go, oh, just we'll go for a run, and I've got to drop the kids off. Like attracts like. You're going to feel more rushed. You're going to feel more anxious. You're going to feel more scattered. Whereas if you're more of that, I really don't feel like doing anything today. Like I didn't feel like it yesterday either. And then you go and eat like a big tub of ice cream and you sit and watch Netflix, you're going to feel more heavy, more lethargic. Whereas if you just did some invigorating breath work, if you went for a bit of a walk, that's the opposite quality, right? So you're going to shift some of that stagnation. So we look at the qualities we call in Ayurveda, Sanskrit word is gunas, in that constitution and how that's making you feel if you're feeling imbalanced, which means you're not feeling sattvic, you're not feeling, content and peaceful. So what is it that's making you feel that way? Now, what is the opposite quality that we can actually bring in? And so when you have this understanding of yourself, you don't, I guess, well, one, we always joke, you can always just blame your dosha. You can be like, not me.
It's like your star sign.
Make it not
I'm
so
sensitive because I'm a Cancer.
Exactly. But you've got the tools to do something about it, to make
Yes.
you more in tune with yourself.
No, I really love that. And I think that's really a woman's not just journey, but it's her responsibility to really get to know herself. And have you seen Moana, the Disney movie Moana?
No,
The
I
one in
have.
Hawaii?
I've seen the cartoon one. Is there an actual movie?
There's the grandmother who like dances in the water with the stingrays is like my goal.
I love that.
When I'm older, I'm like, yes, I want to be like that, so in tune with myself and nature that like nothing is, like shields to all the drama and bullshit. I love that so much. How can we stop living for others' approval and start trusting our body and our inner voice?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the truth is that most of us have been conditioned to prioritize others. What they think, what they need, what they expect, and then we become mothers. Some of us don't become mothers and sort of maybe become more career women, whatever, or both, but we're always sort of like trying to please the expectations of others. And our body carries a deep intelligence. But again, if we're listening to the expectation and the approval of others, we're ignoring our true blueprint, which we just spoke about. And so when we ignore these signals that our body is trying to tell us, whether that's to like fit in or to do the right thing according to other people's standards and expectations, it can cause discomfort and dis-ease in our body, and we become disconnected from our true self because we might be pushing our boundaries in order to support somebody else, but that's leaving us exhausted and anxious. And we're quieting that inner knowing because we don't want to voice how we're truly feeling. And so the first step is really to pause long enough to listen.
Yes, Harmony. It's the silence. I feel like I said something at the beginning of the year that I'm not going to outsource as much this year. I'm going to just quieten down and go inward and really listen to myself and tune in. I feel like I always know the answers, and sometimes I'm filling it up with noise of the external. And there's something that Tony Robbins and Michelle Obama said recently, and I understand to a degree. Community is hugely crucial in a very happy life and a very happy world, and the collective energy. However, they were like, modern society is so focused on the self, it's going to be selfish and not have community. I disagree to a degree there, because I feel like I'm always saying you need to put your oxygen mask on first, because the whole premise of this podcast, if you're pouring from an empty cup, there's nothing left. You're utterly useless as a mum and a daughter and a sister and a friend. So I feel like it's so important to do things for yourself first, and then to be able to do for others and community and do things for others and do things for community. As we're recording this, it's Martin Luther King Day. So it's very, very important to always think of others and how you can assist others. However, I also question when I'm doing things for others. Am I doing this because, like, out of the goodness of my heart, I want them to be happy, or because I want a pat on the head? And that's so every year I put something as simple as I leave cookies for my neighbors on their door. And this year I didn't even write my name on it. And there's a couple of new neighbors. And I'm like, you know what? I don't even need the thank you, Steph. That was so nice. I want them to have cookies for the sake of waking up and going, oh, look at this little treat I have on my door. I didn't need the recognition this time. I thought, so very often in the past, I've been a people pleaser for years, and I am a good person and I love to see people happy, but there's been very often my actions have been for me to get the pat on the head. So I'm not doing that anymore. I'm now focused on what can I do for the community to better the community and, you know, make me feel good, but not to receive the reward. Does that make sense?
Love that. Absolutely. And that is you on your dharmic path. That is the definition, which we'll get to later, of dharma. And in saying that, I really wish I lived next door, because I wouldn't mind waking up to a bag of cookies.
They're really good. I'm telling you, I've been doing this since I was in high school. I perfected the recipe.
So much.
I'm Monica Geller. Did you ever watch Friends? I'm very much Monica. And even she made chocolates for her neighbors. I'm like, yeah, that's so me.
Well, that's amazing.
And she gets burnt out all the time, see? Because she's always trying to help others. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like we said, just the first step is having to listen to yourself. And I think Ayurveda beautifully integrates a lot of rituals around self-care that fit into the modern, like, you know, how we fit Ayurveda into this modern world? Because let's face it, we are busy modern women, and we have this concept called dinacharya, which is your daily routine. And within that, it gives you some rituals, like, you know, maybe the first thing is, if you're having a cup of tea in the morning, it's in silence and it's tuning in to how you feel, but how you want to feel. Because again, coming back to that empowered mind paradigm, if you're not feeling your best, how can you shift into that different frequency that you want to be and feel for the day? And so I think we really need to listen. And there's also this concept in Ayurveda called pratyahara. And why I love this practice, which is just meaning drawing inwards. Like, in this modern world, we are so pulled outside of our body, outside of our senses. And one cause of disease in the mind and body is misuse of our senses. And the way that we're pulled out constantly is, you know, constant message alerts on our
social media, number one.
Social media,
drawn into other people's lives. Yeah.
But even like the foods that we have now, that the taste is either so salty or so sweet. Like, there's constant, the loudness, the noise around us, the sirens, there's just so much going on. And so pratyahara allows us to bring all of our senses inwards again, and not allow us to be so distracted with the external world, even if it's for a few minutes, because that is where we can actually hear our higher self. And we can hear
that. We're always trying to get, you know, like entertained, or like you said, food is so over seasoned. And I did an episode with Carla Oates from The Beauty Chef, and she was saying we've forgotten just the beautiful flavor of just like a strawberry on its own. And I watched my son just absolutely in his element eating blueberries, cheese, and uncooked pasta, like, and he makes a lot of noises as he eats each bite, like it's the best thing he's ever had. And I'm like, great, there's no seasoning, there's no flavor, like, it's just the true flavor of the food. But I love the self-practices, like the self-massage in there, you say with sesame oil. But I think for Peter, I think you can do coconut oil, right? Yeah. I'm going to start doing that. And with little rose oil in it. I'm going to buy some rose oil. And every night I've been having almond milk with nutmeg, and I am loving that. So thank you for that practice, because I like something that feels like a little bit of a dessert as well, but also like calming. So it's
just small rituals that just allows you to come back to yourself. For a moment.
It's like a gift to yourself, isn't it? Like giving yourself time. But yeah, rituals. There's something beautiful in rituals. And I think there's something really beautiful about women, that they make things beautiful. You know, like they'll turn like simple little tasks into something beautiful. I really like how women do that. Yeah. I think it's lovely. For my favorite question, can you touch on the beautiful concept of dharma and how a sense of purpose and fulfillment are such crucial components in a healthy, content life? I won't say happy. I like the word content, and I know you use that a bit too, contentment over happiness.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you say dharma. It's so beautiful. So I think in the West, our concept of dharma can be a little bit confused with dharma is just purpose, and that purpose has to be this big career goal. And so it's not that. The true definition of dharma in its original context, so looking from the Vedic lens, is really actually multi-layered, and it's deeply rooted in spiritual and ethical practices. So at its core, dharma means that which upholds, sustains, or supports the order of the universe. So that's like the definition. And it really is the natural law that governs life, that gives us a guiding force to live in alignment with our truth, our purpose, and our integrity. And so, in a personal sense, yes, Dharma can be like this sole purpose, and some people play that out through their career. Some people do not. Some people play it out by putting cookies on their neighbor's doorstep and making people smile, by raising their children and putting all their love and energy into that. It's really the unique path that you're here to walk. It's the qualities that you're meant to embody. So your beautiful giving nature, that's like, it's giving me goosebumps. Like that is just, you're giving so much from your heart without recognition, and the way that you contribute to the greater whole. So it's not just a job or a role that you have in this lifetime. It's how you'll live your life, and in a way that feels aligned with your true nature. And this is why even like understanding your constitution, your dosha, helps you really understand your dharmic path. And so in Ayurveda, we say that dharma is essential to our health, because living in alignment with your purpose is so important. I mean, if you're ignoring your inner voice, you're denying your gifts.
Yes.
And you're living for other people's expectations. And I did that for so long in my nursing career. Whilst that played a part in my dharmic path, I don't disagree with that. I was meant to do that path. But I did it for so long, and longer than maybe I should have, because my grandparents were so proud of me. Like my grand loved that I was a nurse. Old people love that. And she was the person I respected and loved the most in the world. And to be honest, it wasn't until her passing that I transitioned out of it completely.
Yeah.
And I was sort of, living in that. So I guess in short, Dharma is your truth. It's your calling, and it's your way of showing up in the world with purpose and authenticity. And that could be simply showing up with gratitude, or showing up to help the little old lady cross the road. It's a way you show up in the world.
Yes, I love it so much. And I love that it doesn't have to be just career, because a lot of people will be like, well, what's my purpose? I really just wanted to, get married and have kids. And there's just no like degree of this is a good dharma. It's just what feels right to you. And I always say, when you're doing the right thing, and when you're in the right relationships, because you feel it in your gut. Like you feel at ease, and two, lit up. And I'll bet there was something in your body. Did you feel that when you were in nursing, that something's not aligned?
Yes, it felt more contracting. And
Yes.
I'll share, I'll tell you. It felt, when I had to go to night duty, I just started walking down my stairs one day, just crying.
Yep.
And goes, what is it? What happened? Like, he thought something really would. I go, I don't want to go to night duty. Like, my body doesn't like the nights. I mean, the
empaths.
You're already exhausted, and you're dealing with all these traumas. And I just like, I don't want to do it, And it was just this felt really like contracted. And
yes. There's something I was doing the other day as a bit of part of my morning journaling was looking, stepping into my future self, and looking at, where she lives, what she does, and everything I pictured. I had to sit in it and go, does it feel expansive, or does it feel restricting? If there was anything that didn't feel right, that's not what I want to do. That's what I used to think I should do, or that's, I once said I wanted to do it, or someone said you'd be good at that. But it's got to feel like, and again, it's the moments of silence. All the personal work I do is when either the house is empty or my husband and son are asleep. And I have that silence to really go inward and just get in my gut and go, how does it feel? Every time. It's like when people I had a friend put in like a group chat, which shirt, I like this one and, mum likes this one. And I'm like, who cares what we think? What do you like? Which shirt lights you up? Like, we're not wearing it. You're wearing the shirt. Like, I literally never ask friends for opinions on anything. So I'm like, unless it's like parenting stuff that they've done before me. But yeah, tuning into the self, you always know, don't you? You know what feels right for you.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm still really good friends with all of the nurses I started with in the emergency department. And we actually had a get together the other day. It was one of the girls is pregnant, and one of the nurses there, she was just so passionate, telling me about like the retrieval she's done and how, clinical. This is just she's become a nurse practitioner. She just loves it, and I'm like, I love that for you so much. Like that is so your path, your purpose. You're never going to stray from that and she's been doing it for like, probably 40 years or so and still loving it. And so everyone is so unique on their dharmic path and how they're going to be their best self in how they support and show up for the greater good of the world.
Yeah. And it's so important to have people in the right roles. Like when I gave birth to my son, the midwives, I still get choked up thinking about them. I'm like, you guys are just doing exactly what you're always meant to do. Like they just, it was like the biggest warm hug having them there. I really missed them when I came home. Yeah. I want them to come home with me. Let's talk about shifting our mindset. Now, you mentioned mindset in the book, and I love that you do because I find that's crucial for anything. I'm a very big manifester as well.
Yeah.
Let's talk about shifting our mindset from being a victim of our circumstances to taking back the reins of our life. And there's a quote in your book that I love. You are not what happened to you. You are who you choose to become.
I absolutely live by this quote because we are the creators of our life. Even if certain things have happened to us, it shouldn't dictate your future because
they happen for us though.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Like I used to think things are happening to me, and then when I shifted that mindset to they're happening for me, or I shifted like simple things from I have to do this to I get to do this. Those are mindset shifts really work.
Absolutely. But even for sometimes it can sound a little bit confronting to people who have suffered like these deep traumas. And we've all been through stuff, like traumas and heartbreaks and health issues, and no trauma is bigger than anyone else's. It's relevant to us. And those things, they may shape us in a way because they have, we have experienced something that maybe not other people have experienced, but they don't define us. And a lot of people feel discomfort with change and the unknown. And so if they let their trauma define themselves, then even though it's not comfortable, it is known to them, and they're often happy to stay in there because it's actually easier to be re-traumatizing themselves. And I know that sounds really bizarre.
No, it's familiar.
And it's familiar. And so
unfamiliar is scary. And I say this a lot in episodes, like there's so many, and like I did it for years, like you're repeating patterns because it's familiar, but it's actually not comfortable, but it's a false sense of comfort.
100%. Absolutely. And we have, like, when we look at Ayurvedic psychology, these samskaras, which have come maybe from trauma, they're these limiting beliefs that are left in our chitta mind, which is our subconscious mind. And so sometimes without even knowing, we've created these patterns in our life that keep resurfacing because, like you said, it's familiar. And I've had so many women sort of just say to me, like, this is just how it is now. Like, I wouldn't be like this if this didn't happen. And whilst that can be, to a certain degree, yeah, but Ayurveda and other sort of, Eastern medicine modalities, they remind us that we aren't what happened to us. We can shift and we can release these patterns and these samskaras. And so we can take back that steering wheel of our life and choose the direction we want to go. But we have to make that commitment to ourselves first and understand that whilst this may have to a degree shaped who we have been now, we need to know who we are becoming and who we want to become, because that is where true freedom lies. And so I think that every small choice that you make, like positive choice you make, whether that is sort of understanding and noticing a pattern, choosing to rest instead of people please, setting a boundary even though it's really hard to start with, nourishing your body instead of like self-sabotaging. This is a vote for the woman that you are becoming, that you are stepping into. And she's always been there. That's just the higher self that got clouded by these samskaras that you decided was your destiny and your future. But that is not true, because this version of you has always been there. It's just, how can you access her? How can you clear the fog and the societal expectations and the trauma that's happened to actually come here, step into that higher self that you were born with, and live your dharmic path?
Yes. Look, there's something as simple as, I love Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. I have the book, but I re-listen to the audiobook once a year as I go for a walk. It's just a little thing. And she grew up in poverty, and, you know, she had abuse and stuff, but she said we were so poor where my parents would give us raw garlic just to fight infections. And then she got to school and she said, they were giving out cake, and there were kids that got 2 and 3 pieces. And she said, when it got to me, they'd run out of cake and I got none. And it makes me cry. Like when you picture a little kid and see your whole posture went, oh, but she was so wise, because she's like, I realize now that was not anybody doing something to me. That was my mindset, that's what I deserved, because that's what I only knew poverty, and so it's not like the other kids were being greedy. They wouldn't have even seen her, because the world reacts to how you see yourself. And then she went on and had, abuse. And then she did the personal work and said, I'm now not even on the radar of these men, abusive men. And the same thing with me. I had an abusive partner. Then I had one who cheated. And then I just worked on myself, and I never thought, oh, all men are awful. I knew I deserved a good man, and I ended up with a good man after I loved the shit out of myself and decided what I was worthy of. But I also recognized, again, like, you never excuse actions of others, but I recognized how I was contributing by how I viewed myself, and what I was saying to myself, what I was worthy of was what others were mirroring. So yeah, it's very important to look at the self, and no one wants to. We want a finger point. It's easier, but you do have to look at how you contribute to things and do that inner work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I spoke a bit about in my book as well about, I grew up, I had a house growing up that we had no internal walls. It was just made of cupboards, no actual proper toilet. It was like embarrassing. Like it, and
didn't want friends over,
all of that. And so it took,
shame. Did you feel shame attributed
absolutely to that? Shame, and like that I had that because that was what I was worth, and I carried that on. And so when I've done a lot of work to shift my money mindset and to shift the worthiness mindset, and me and my husband, he also came from like nothing. And so when me and my husband started to build assets and, create business and whatnot, I was so embarrassed, and I was so felt so guilty for having nice things. And that was so hard. So to have my husband brought me my dream car, and instead of being so happy and so excited, he did it as a surprise. I was like, what the hell? I was furious. I was like, I can't be driving around in this if my friends don't have a BMW. Like, ew, I can't, this is ew, this is gross. Like, he's like, but this is your dream. You've said that.
Did you recognize that?
I did. And I felt angry and frustrated, and then angry and frustrated at myself. And then I'm like, he's like, this is your dream car though. Like, you've always said that. I said, I know, but like, how would this make me look? this would make me look like I'm this, spiritual wellness person, and then I'm driving around in this, and it was this battle of who am I? Like,
Yes,
what
but
does this
that's
say
what a lot
about
of
me?
money blockages are. Like, like years ago, even like as far back as like Disney movies and that growing up,
Yeah.
the people with money were evil. The people without it were good
Yes.
people. But like, it just exacerbates who you are. Good people can do great things with money. Like I give to charity,
Absolutely.
I can give way more to charity if I make millions. So like, yeah,
Absolutely.
we have to get rid of that. It's very ingrained in all of us, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, even just going back to your cookie example, like someone in true poverty, like we think, oh, is that going to make them noble and humble? But they can't, they're worried about feeding their own family, let alone doing such a nice gesture that's going to lift someone else's day up to be able to make cookies with primo ingredients and that,
Yeah.
So yeah, it is interesting, but that took a lot for me to overcome for sure.
And do you find, I'm conscious of the time, but I just want to ask more and more. Do you find that this journey is not linear where you'll get to this is what I do. I'll be
Yeah.
like, I'll get to a place. Oh, I'm healed. And then I'm like, something comes up and I get angry with myself. And then I'm like, well, no one's perfect. Like people like Mel Robbins and Lewis Howes, they're still going to have triggers come up and things come
Yeah.
up. Do you find that like you'll get to a place and you thought you fixed all of that and then something will trigger you? Do you
Oh,
find that a lot? Yeah.
absolutely.
It's being human, right? Because a lot of coaches will have their own coaches as well, right?
100%.
Yeah.
It's like we're here to evolve and grow. And if we're
Yes.
not evolving and growing and we think
You're
we've
done.
we've
God will
done our
take you.
job, we're enlightened, we wouldn't be here. We're off in an enlightenment town.
I never want to be, like, God, I got a lot of work to do. So don't take so much more I have to learn. Oh, that's so good. Let's touch on something that comes up a lot for women, either as we move into the next phase of our life or after becoming mothers. That really shifts things. That feeling of losing a sense of self. I know that's come up for me a lot and my friends, especially with motherhood. And I just want to read a direct quote from your book, The Journey of Loss and Discovery. In my practice, I hear it often. I don't know who I am anymore, and I feel like I've lost a part of myself. The fear of losing who they were collides with the quiet whisper of who they are becoming. I love that line.
And I think this is such a realization that a lot of women come to. And like I was saying at the start of the episode, like that missing piece in their health journey, it's just like, yeah, they can do all the right things. They're doing their strength training, their Pilates, they're eating right and go on. But there's just this bit that they feel a bit lost in and not fulfilled and not content. And that piece is sort of this transition of their identity, which can happen for many reasons and can happen over many different transitions. But yeah, motherhood is one. It's when you first become a mother, but it's also when your children grow up and leave the home, and then you're left with, well, who am I now? Because I've just
Yes.
given so much of myself. And so I think it's important to note that this can be a grieving process. This can be
Yes.
feel like a loss, and that is so fine to be able to grieve who you were in that stage of life and mourning that vision of you that is slowly fading. But there's also something really beautiful about it and about going through that process, because it is the beginning of a new chapter. And I think in society we often, like, we talk about aging, we talk about perimenopause, going into menopause, and it's always like this decline.
Yes. Yes.
But no, like, this is actually a new beginning and a new chapter, and it's where we step into this wise womanhood. And so I always say, like, don't rush to try to get back to who you were, because you need to actually be curious about who you are becoming and really let that unfold, because she could be.
Do we need to let go of her?
Yes.
Of who we were? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a little story of something I did just this week, that personal work I was talking
Yeah.
about? I'm very visual and I have to do a visualization. And I've been in this home for 10 years and it's now time to move on. And I love this home. It's been just like the most peaceful little house I've ever lived in. And I realized I was doing some work that I'm not getting to the next phase because I haven't let go of the old self. So I did this thing where I pictured old version of Steph in front of new version of Steph, joined at the belly button by an umbilical cord.
Yeah.
And it was in like this cosmic thing, you know, it was like black and purples. And I cut the cord and let her go. And I cried buckets because I realized I didn't want to and I feel like I'm going to cry now. It's familiar, it's cozy, and letting go of her and all the things around her. I feel like I'm going to cry now. It feels hard. So I'm never going to step into that next version of myself until I can say goodbye to that old version of myself. And it has been like that with motherhood. I'm doing the same sort of, you know, or try to do the same exercising and diet. And it, you know, everything's different. Your body's different. Your energy level's different. And every time I try and compare, or, you know, have you seen the 2016 posts? I'm not posting who I was at 2016. I don't need to be like, oh, wow, she was fitter and she, you know, was hotter. Like, that makes me feel bad about myself because I'm proud of who I am now. I'm proud of who I've become, and we can't go back. We can't go back in time to who we were, and you're just never going to grow and evolve. So that's a really interesting thing, and I would urge the listeners to do that too, sort of, if they want to move into that next level self, is there something that they need to say goodbye to? And I wrote a blog once that even the most this is when I was pregnant, and I said even the most joyous thing comes with a period of mourning and grieving. And I had to grieve. When I got married, I had to grieve single Steph, and all the time she put into her own personal journey, you know, got minimized a bit. And then as I became a mom, I had to grieve non-mother Steph. And it was
Steph.
And it doesn't, like, I think people are scared to do it because it makes them sound ungrateful. And I'm so grateful for my immense blessings. But I do shed a tear for who I've let go of, because she was just, you know, we've been through a lot together. Yeah.
And you're going to go through so much more together.
Yeah.
Coming.
Yeah. It's interesting. And your work touched on that a lot. And I think it is good to not look back so much and just allow the new version of you to emerge. And it is nice, this new phase of life. It used to be about what you're losing, but now it's about this wisdom, isn't it? Like this wise woman. And yeah.
And I love that mindset shift. It's about, what you're gaining.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am going to link in the show notes your book and everything. And I'll please give your podcast a plug. What's the name of your podcast again?
It is Harmony Inspired Health. Well, it's actually the title's Ayurveda, Women's Health and Holistic Success by Harmony Inspired Health. That was more for SEO.
Yes. I know, I'm looking into that now. It's all very complex. I had a listen yesterday to an episode. It's the most recent one, and I loved it so much. I was walking my son, and I really listened to it. I'll link all that in the show notes, but I do recommend everyone to grab a copy of this book, and don't even loan it out to people. You're going to need to keep it in your bookshelf and refer to it all the time. It's fantastic. What is something you'll be doing in the next week to fill up your cup?
Yeah. For me, filling up my cup, like I do often the rituals. I have my dinacharya and all of that, and I've been hiking with my husband, which going out in nature, absolutely love that. I really do feel that fills up my cup. But this week, because I've just come off the back of being away with family and relatives. And so I'm actually going to
Time for solitude?
My cup with more silence. I even did like a self-yoga practice yesterday, and usually I'd have a nice playlist going, and I just did it in silence. I just need the silence to fill me up.
Yes. Yep. You feel the pull. Your body knows what it needs. Yeah, that sounds beautiful. My husband's traveling tomorrow, and I think I'm going to do the same. I'm actually looking forward to I hope my son has a big long nap in the middle of the day. Oh, that's beautiful. I've so enjoyed our chat, and your book was so beneficial to me. So I do recommend everyone jump on the show notes and have a read of the book and listen to her podcast. It's fantastic. So thank you so much for your time today. It's very appreciated.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you having me on.
And everybody, please do something in the next week to fill up your cup.